For those of you familiar with the Draw My Life trend on YouTube, this is Draw My Lymph. So let's start with how lymph is formed.
I know I spelled capillary wrong there, but anyhow.
The arterial end of the capillary has high hydrostatic pressure that drives nutrient-rich fluid out of the capillaries into the extracellular space and bathes cells to allow diffusion and exchange of nutrients and waste. At the venial end, the hydrostatic pressure is low and the osmotic pressure is high due to the presence of plasma proteins in the blood. This drives tissue fluid or extracellular fluid back into the vessel. Any excess tissue fluid is collected by the lymphatic vessels and transported to local and distal lymph nodes and eventually back to the circulation. The lymphatic system is as diffusely spread around the body as the cardiovascular/nervous system, draining all organ systems except the skeletal and nervous system. The top right quadrant of the body is drained by the right lymphatic duct and the rest of the body by the thoracic duct. All the lymph in the body drains to the cisterna chyli, the big daddy lymph node, and from there to the right lymphatic and thoracic duct, to the right and left venous angles respectively. The venous angle is the angle formed by the bifurcation of the brachiocephalic vein into the jugular and the subclavian. So, today we're focusing on the lymphatic drainage of the thorax. Starting with superficial, we start with the skin. All the skin above the umbilicus drains to the anterior axillary nodes if lateral to the mid-clavicular line, and parasternal lymph nodes if medial. The breast, male or female, has its specific lymph flow. The nipple, lobules and mammary glands drain to the subareolar plexuses. 3/4 of the breast drains laterally to the pectoral lymph nodes, which drain to the anterior axillary lymph nodes and then to supra and infraclavicular lymph nodes, to the subclavian trunk, and eventually to the respective venous angles via the thoracic or right lymphatic duct. The leftover 1/4 drains medially, with the superior medial portion draining to the opposite breast via the parasternal lymph nodes, and the inferior portion of the breast draining to the abdominal lymph nodes. This explains the possible route of cancer spread from one breast to another. Now, the lungs and the pleurae. The lymphatic plexuses in the lung communicate freely. Lymph drains deep to superficial in the lungs. The lung parenchyma drain to the pulmonary lymph nodes, which join the superficial lymph nodes and drain to the bronchopulmonary lymph nodes/hilar lymph nodes. The root of the lung and associated structures also drain here. This drains to the tracheobronchial lymph nodes. Remember this for later. The tracheobronchial lymph nodes are divided into supra and infracarinal nodes. This drains to the paratracheal lymph nodes. Paratracheal nodes drain to the bronchomediastinal lymph nodes. Remember these for later too. Which again drains to the venous angles via the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct respectively. The heart. Lymph from the myocardium and the subendocardial connective tissue drains to the subepicardial lymphatic plexus. The lymphatic vessels follow the course of the coronary vessels, connecting to form one lymphatic vessel which passes between the pulmonary trunk and the left atrium, going to join with the tracheobronchial lymph nodes to drain to the bronchomediastinal lymph nodes, and so on and so forth to the venous angles. The trachea, thoracic spine, the esophagus, the aorta and the thoracic duct make up the posterior mediastinum, which is everything behind the pericardium. The esophagus, aorta and posterior aspects of the diaphragm, pericardium and intercostal spaces all drain to the posterior mediastinal nodes, which directly drain to the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct and straight to the main circulation via the venous angles. So, here's a quick recap. So, keeping the tracheobronchial nodes in mind, we know the lungs and the heart both drain here and then to bronchomediastinal lymph nodes, joined by the parasternal nodes, which drain the superior medial breast and the skin of the chest. The bronchomediastinal plexus on either side drains to its respective lymphatic/thoracic duct. The subclavian plexus, which if you recall drains the lateral breast via the anterior axillary lymph nodes, and the posterior mediastinal nodes also empty straight into the right lymphatic and thoracic ducts on their respective sides. These ducts then empty into their respective venous angles. Remember, the breast go to the subclavian and the parasternal lymph nodes, the lungs and the heart go to the tracheobronchial lymph nodes, and the aorta and esophagus to the posterior mediastinal lymph nodes. Thank you.